celebrating Black Moss Press's triple book launch. That's happening tonight, Thursday, January 23rd, and we're launching 3 books by the authors that are here before you. My name is Vanessa Shields, and I'm launching my book called I Am That Woman. I'm joined by John B. Lee, who is launching his book called Doing It, How to Write the Perfect Poem. And last but not least is April Bulmer, and her book is called Women of the Cloth. We've got our lovely host here, Ted Shaw, and he's going to talk to us about poetry.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. I'm going to start with you, April.
Yes.
Thanks for coming. This is your second book with Marty Gervais.
Yes,
Black Moss
that's
Press.
right.
Tell me a little bit about, now the title of this is Women of the Cloth.
Well, I wrote the poems as individual poems, and I soon discovered that I was working with characters, so I thought, well, I should give each poem the name of a woman so that the reader is clear that there isn't a single narrator throughout the book. And it was a very long book. It was about 200 pages long, but Marty suggested putting it in his series called 6410. So I had to have fewer than 64 poems. So John helped me out, and we cut over 100 poems, 150 poems, something like that.
That's for the next book.
Yes, I have a surplus at home. Well, I started writing as a late teenager. I was about 17, and then I went to York University, and I studied mass communications and English, but some of my courses were creative writing courses. And I started by publishing at York in newspapers and small papers there at York. And then when I was about 23, I got my first poem published in a journal. Well, it is easier for me to write poetry. Yeah, it comes more naturally. I did a master's degree in creative writing, and part of the course was to take prose. So that's when I began writing short stories. The poem I think I'll read for you was written in Cambridge, where I live. Excuse me, and there's a lovely cafe there on the Grand River, so I go there once in a while to write. And the narrator's name is Hannah, so it's Hannah Soft Sacks. I wait for you on the waste of the moon, bare goatskin medicine bag, angel turnip, and quiet root. Imagine you on your knees, whispering to the mother of the highest, her sweet breeze. Ain't that pretty hair gathered in ribbons and combs, Mrs. God, Ma of ghosts? You might come to me, the breath of the great mother on your sleeves. Imagine our child born with a caul, teas made with moss will flow my milk. This as I sit at the river, you in your skirts, nettles on your socks, fragments of a sheep rib, cow's jaw in a soft sack, all that bone and cloth. Okay.
Well, I called it Doing It because I think the great pleasure in poetry for me has always been the writing of poetry. I was talking to another writer recently, and he said that he enjoys writing poetry far more than he enjoys reading it, although reading it is a great pleasure. I say in the book that being called a poet is something like a verdict in a way, and I don't really seek to be called a poet. I like to think of the fact that I write poetry, that's what I want to do. And Marty suggested the subtitle, which is Writing the Perfect Poem, and I immediately accepted that suggestion. But in the very first chapter, I make certain that the readers of the book know that that's not possible, and that's why you write the next poem. People ask me sometimes, what's your favorite poem? And it's either the one I'm about to write when I leave you, or the one that I haven't written yet.
Who's your favorite child?
Yeah, not the unborn one, mind you. There are no unborn Lee children in my future, I hope. And I have the strong conviction that if you're going to write a book on writing, it should be helpful. And whenever I'm teaching creative writing, the focus is always on the students, never on me. And my essential desire is to be helpful. This is a passage from an essay called Even at the Worst of Times, and it begins with a quote from Al Purdy: "Even at the worst of times, writing has been joyous and rewarding," says Al Purdy in To See the Shore. "The very first poems I ever wrote, thinking I might someday become a poet, were bad in every sense of the word but one. I did not know how bad they were. They were bad beyond the know of bad. But they were always a pleasure to write. And that pleasure in writing remains with me even to this day. Whenever I am writing, I am chasing the feeling I feel arising from the thrill of writing when the writing is going well."
So this is my first book of poetry, and it's published by Black Moss. It was born out of a conversation with Marty, sort of a serendipitous commission, I'll call it. But we were talking about some launch ideas and who would be reading and participating in these launches, and he said, "You know, we need someone like you at a launch." And I said, "Well, all I need is a book of poetry." And he said, "Okay, let's do it. It's time." So I had about 3 weeks to gather what I had previously written and write new stuff, and then get it edited and laid out into the printer. So that's sort of how it was born. And what it is a collection of some older pieces that are revised and edited, and then a whole bunch of new pieces that are reflective of my life and trying to balance being a writer and being a mother, and and so it's eclectic and raw and sexy, and that's what people like when for my writing, and so I have to give the people what they want, right? This one is called Watching You Sleep in the Early Morning, and I actually wrote it about my son Jet when he was about 2. So this is probably the closest to them in their childhood. Well, smaller, toddlerhood. Watching you sleep in the early morning. You don't feel the tear that falls from my eye into the curve of your perfect blonde curl. It holds for an instant, clear and true, before relaxing into the arms of your hair. I gently lift a long eyelash from your chocolate dirty cheek, hold it on the tip of my finger, and wish that all the wishes you ever wish come true. That I could hold you forever on the tip of my finger, in the clear of my tear, in the soul of my heart, so you don't feel the pain of me letting you go, to grow, to know, to love. And But anyway, that's there's a lot of that kind of emotive work in here, and that's what I want. I want people to read and feel emotional and laugh and have some sort of reaction, so we can talk about it, because I believe that's what poetry is for, and the world needs more poetry.